Okay. Yeah, I have like some multiple questions
Right.
written
Yeah.
down.
So let's finish this point off. Is there some place deep in our DNA is buried, and never mind whether it's deep or not, but it's actually in the DNA that we have a reaction to snakes, which means we will react to sticks on the ground or a belt on the floor because it reminds us of the image of a snake.
Mm-hmm.
But also, that comes from the fear of the unknown. That, in fact, think about reptiles and storks. That if the stork sees a young crocodile, that crocodile is lunch. But if that crocodile sees the stork, then the stork is lunch. Whoever sees what first,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so we have a built in reaction to seeing things that startle us. Because in the out in the jungle, it might be dangerous. It's sneaking up on you. And so it's better to see a lion prowling in the grass rather than seeing the lion charging you.
True.
All right. So uh, this is then gives rise to that issue of familiarity, which is where we started.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And the familiar then means that we know it and we recognize it easily and we know how to deal with it in a way because it is familiar. And so, an example of that I've heard recently is that people will pretend to go to sleep, then they will go to sleep.
Yeah. And
But
just
if
to
you are up and awake and worried about going to sleep and thinking about things, then you don't go to sleep. But if you pretend to go to sleep, then you actually go to sleep.
right.
So
So
things start as a seed. Go ahead.
so the familiar thing here is then the the unwholesome thoughts, and like this is why I can't bring myself to change them because they are familiar.
They're
Uh,
familiar. We've got a
mm,
habit of it,
mm,
that we've gotten used to being in a certain way. We formed those habits when we were children. Most people feel as adults the way that they felt at the age of 3 and 4.
mhm.
And at the age of 5 and 6, we're put to work. We have to do what we're told to do, whether we like it. And so we go around living lives of quiet desperation, doing what we're told to do, feeling the way that we felt, not liking it, but doing it anyway. I mean, it's very, very typical, very classic, well known that people don't like their jobs, right? Very few people
Yes.
like it. Well, if they don't like the job, why do they have it? Why do they keep it?
Yeah, because it's familiar.
It's because it's familiar and they feel uncomfortable and insecure if they have no job.
Right.
And they have the idea if you don't work, you don't eat, right? But that's a
Hmm.
lie. Almost everybody that I know that doesn't work eats.
It's yeah, true. True.
They find a way of getting something to eat. If you don't feed a dog, he'll go find something to eat.
Hmm.
Old folks'
Yes.
home. Children don't work, they eat. A lot of wives don't have jobs and they eat. A lot of husbands don't have jobs and they eat. But that's grilled into us by those people who want to take advantage of us. And often it's our own dad. Dad wants the teenage boy to go get a job. And so he goes to someone who is just like his dad that wants him to get a job. You know why dad wants the kid to get a job? because it benefits the dad.
Mm.
Okay, my dad would call me lazy because I didn't cut the grass. And I didn't like it being called lazy, so I went and cut the grass, but I didn't like doing it. It took me a long time to realize that it was he who was being lazy because he wanted the grass cut, but he wanted me to do it. If he wanted the grass cut, why didn't he cut the grass? If dad wants the kid to clean up his room, why don't dad clean up the room? He wants the room cleaned up. Why does he want the kid to do it? That in fact, a better way to do it would be if a dad had wisdom, he'd make a game out of it. Maybe a basketball game. Here, let me hold this great big bag that you keep your toys in, and I'm going to try to keep you from getting it in the bag, and let's make a game out of it. And everybody has fun while the room's getting cleaned up. But oh no, it's you go clean up your room so I feel better. Or you go get a job so I don't have to support you so much. Or if you get a job working at this factory, I'm going to make some money off of you. I mean, how many factory managers hire people just for the fun of it? They're not expecting to make any money off of you. They may make just enough of money off of you to pay you, and then they're not in any benefit.
And they make
But
a lot of money on you.
That's the
right?
mentality of Thailand, by the way. They have a whole mentality. It's a cultural mentality of full employment. Anybody who wants a job can get a job. And one of the funniest parts, that you're over on Koh Samui, have you ever ridden down the road and see people who work for the hotel come out and direct traffic?
I have, yeah.
Yeah, guess what? Those guys are completely worthless. They're completely useless. People can come out of the hotel driving their cars. They don't need somebody to come out and stand in traffic.
Mm-hmm. But they need to give somebody a job.
But they need to give somebody a job. Exactly.
Okay.
So, going back to that point that you were making before about you've heard it fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
All right. There's two ways of doing that. One is to just be a charlatan until you're a good charlatan.
I don't know what a charlatan is, but
A thief, a huckster,
okay.
A street musician, a magician, a
Oh yeah.
three-card Monte. Okay. A charlatan is a one who is using prestidigitation or sleight of hand or lying to get you to do something. Gambling is that way. That's what most gambling is all about. Okay. They promise you something good and you go for it and you wind up disappointed. Whether it's a gambling or whether it's a job that you've got or whatever it is. Okay, so that's the faking until you don't make it. But there is the possibility of using that point, and that is enlightenment is very much you keep acting enlightened and then you are. You keep having the thought that you're okay and you are.
Yeah, that's yeah.
But we already have gotten into the habit of, oh, I've got to get this, that, and the other thing, and then I'll be okay. Rather than reminding ourselves, you're already okay. You don't have to do anything to become okay. You're already okay.
Mm.
So those seeds of thoughts of I'm okay will grow into the full-blown bush of I'm okay.
And it becomes easier over time.
And it becomes easier over time because you're developing skill.
Yeah.
Just like a 4-year-old has trouble learning chopsticks, but if he keeps at that piano and practices 30 minutes or an hour every day, by the time he's 15, he's in a band.
Yeah, true.
So, go ahead.
This kind of leads into the next topic that I want to discuss is like how do you consistently practice in an ever-changing life. Because there was a moment that I was working from my office in Amsterdam, and then it's just like, okay, you recommended me to do 5 minutes of 2 times 5 minutes of practice every hour.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would do like this Pomodoro technique of, okay, I'm working 25 minutes and then 5 minutes I'm just going to lay on the beanbag and like gladden myself and feel good, which I must say was amazing, because like I don't think an hour walk would have made me feel as good as just gladdening myself for 5 minutes. So I felt like it boosted my productivity and things like that. But now that I'm kind of moving from place to place, I have these activities that I'm doing, and like some friends are here, and it's become more hectic. How do you still manage to practice consistently?
All right. Let me take this opportunity to introduce a sutta, number 39, where the Buddha talks about the 5 hindrances in a way of those 5 hindrances have a result of before and after.
Mm-hmm.
All right. One of them is that you're sick and then you get well, which means the mind is full of hindrances making you sick, and then you don't have the hindrances and you feel well. Another one is you're in debt. If you owe somebody something, you probably have to have a job in order to keep making payments. But if you don't owe anybody anything, wow, what a relief that is. All right. So there you are out traveling with the idea that you owe. You got to be there on time. You got to keep track of your bags.
True, actually, yeah.
Right. You can't, you're in an unfamiliar place and you got to be on your toes. There's another aspect of that. In fact, the Buddha, beside those 2 that I gave you of owing money and being sick, he also has prison. But the one that I'm mentioning here is because he's actually talked about what you're talking about. And that is that someone is on a journey. Now, in those days with the Silk Road, the actual example is that somebody has his camels loaded down with treasure, crossing the desert, and when he gets to the oasis, or better still, he gets home, he can relax. All right? Which means that when we're out traveling, we feel that we're in an uncomfortable environment. We got to keep track. We owe a whole lot of things. And when we arrive, then we are, especially if we arrive free without having lost any of our baggage, and we made it safely home. So the example would be that somebody gets home with their big suitcases, they plop the suitcases down, and then they lay on the bed immediately. It's very typical. As soon as you get home from a long journey, you put those back, don't even open them, and put the stuff away. No, I'm home and I could just drop those bags and rest. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So you can have that mentality that even if you're at the airport, you can set those bags down, sit down in that chair, and rest. Take it frequently. That even though the journey is not completed, at least it's completed in the sense of where you've gotten to allows you to sit here and rest. So have that mentality that you are finally arrived at home. That's something that happened big with me, because I was actually out on a journey. I mean, I went to all over India. I went to every guru that I could find. And then I was living in Bodh Gaya and met a monk, and he recommended that I go to see Bhikkhu Buddhadasa. So what do? Getting to South Thailand cheap because there was no real good public transportation. I bought a bicycle. And I drove a bicycle from Bangkok down to Wat Suan Mok and beyond. And that when I arrived at Wat Suan Mok, Achan Po was standing at the gate waiting for me.
Oh.
Yeah, because he had been in a truck from Chumpon and saw me on the highway and knew that I was going to watch Suan Mokkh. He just knew it. And so he stood at the gate waiting on me until I arrived.
Oh.
But I didn't know that part of the story. All I knew for a long time was here he is saying, I've been waiting on you. Where have you been? Like it was magic or something. But that gave me the kind of a door opening that I very quickly, almost immediately, felt like Wat Suan Mokkh was my home.
Mm.
And I developed that because I had been out traveling for years. Even when I was in high school, couldn't wait to get out of high school so that I could go someplace else. And when I got there, I wanted to go someplace else again. And in fact, my whole life had been traveling until I got to watch Suan Mokkh, and I developed that feeling of being at home.
Mm.
That didn't stop my travels, but what it did stop was that longing for getting home, because I already had my home. And now wherever I go, I have to remind myself, I'm at home now. I'm at home. I can sit down and relax. There's no place to go and nothing to do, even while out traveling. I know that that's a kind of contradiction in terms, but it does have that quality of fake it till you make it.
Yeah. I do think I understand. I feel like I've been trying to practice, for example, in a taxi. Like I would be driving in the taxi thinking just like there's nothing that I have to do. All I have to do is sit here and enjoy this taxi drive
Mm-hmm.
until he drops me off where I need to be.
Right, exactly. That's a perfect example right there. It's just sit or on an airplane.
Yeah.
Most people who were actually on the airplane as they board, as it taxis, as it lifts off, as it's flying through the air for hours, everybody is still uptight. And then when it's getting close to land, they get even more uptight, and then they deboard, and now they've got to deal with another airport, et cetera, like that. And all that time, nobody feels at home.
Mm-hmm.
And while you're traveling, there's an awful lot of waiting. And that waiting time you can use, like for instance, when you come from Koh Samui over to Koh Phangan, you're on a boat. Relax.
Yeah.
Don't get anxious for what you're going to do when you get to your destination. Just relax. I'm at home now.
Yeah. That was good.
So that's the way that we develop that feeling or that sense of well-being, the sense of being at home, the sense of
Mm.
being able to relax. And we
Mm.
practice that, and pretty soon we get pretty good at it.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
true. I do feel like it gets easier if you do it more.
hmm We have to practice often. Why? Because we are normally and naturally, through our DNA and through our instincts, we're uptight about the
Mm-hmm.
unknown, about the
Mm-hmm.
unfamiliar. So we have to actually practice getting over that instinct. Take your mind and intentionally keep telling yourself everything's okay, everything is fine, it's going to all work out, there's no hurry.
Mm.
And we can develop that feeling, that sense of everything is all right, everything is fine, no worries, no hurry, nowhere to go, everything is okay. You
Yeah,
take
yeah,
that
yeah.
deep breath and just relax. That's what Anapanasati is really all about, is taking that effort to relax.
Yeah. Yeah. And then it's just like practicing. I feel like the barrier is at the initial effort of like just doing it, just like
It's hard work in the beginning.
yeah.
Just I often use the example of the kids, the car won't start, and so they push it down the road. In the old days when we had clutches, you could get it going and then pop the clutch and the engine would start up. Even if the battery was not strong enough to turn it over, there was still enough battery left to spark the spark plugs to fire and all. But getting that car to start rolling was a lot of effort.
Right.
And when you start pushing it, it'll eventually get on a roll, and then everybody just has to keep their hand on it and walking it.
Yeah.
All right.
Until you can let go.
Right. Another example would be that the daddy is pushing his daughter on a swing at the park. All right, she's come push me off, Daddy. All right, and so he pushes her off. That initial push is work. Getting her going into the swinging is work. But once she comes back and forth, all we need to do is just touch it. Just touch it to keep it swinging.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's how Anapanasati is. It takes work to get it started. But after we get it working, after we get it running, then the effort is easier and easier. Or like the merry-go-round, where the kids are sitting on the merry-go-round and a couple of people have to get it going. It's a lot of work to push that thing off and getting it going, but once it's spinning, then everybody can hop on and ride for a while.
Okay, and then you just keep the momentum.
Then we just put in just the right amount of effort to keep the momentum going. And so if people quit practice, that means to get it started again is going to take effort.
Yeah.
But if they start getting it going and getting some momentum in their practice so that they're practicing 3-4 times a day or every time they remember, then it's just really easy.
Yeah.
Because you've already got the momentum built up. But no one practices that way, even though that's the correct way to practice. What people do is they push really hard, they get their momentum going, then they take a rest, then they stop meditating, then their whole life falls back apart again. Oh, poor me, pity parties and all of that. And now it takes that push, that effort again to get the ball rolling again.
Yeah.
So it would be a whole lot easier just to keep pushing it a little bit every day. Keep practicing every day, and then it becomes easy life. Not much effort to it.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. When we talk about the 5, you said it was Sutta number 39, I think, like the 5 blockers. I feel like I'm interested in the
5 examples of what it's like to be free from the hindrances. 5 examples of being free from hindrances.
5 examples from being free from hindrances is I do recognize the feeling that I owe a lot of people things. I don't owe money, but it's just the feeling of, oh, I owe my friend to join them, or oh, I owe this person to visit them, or I owe my grandmother a call on her birthday, or all these different types of feelings of like, oh, I have to pay it back or something.
Exactly, paying back an old debt. As opposed to calling Granny because it's her birthday and I'm really happy for her. Hi, Granny. Happy birthday. Right?
Yeah.
But oh no, we do it out of a sense of obligation.
Yes.
Because we've gotten into the habit of everything we do is out of a sense of obligation. We owe it.
Mm-hmm.
And so we can begin to practice to do what we do happily rather than doing it because we have to do it. We owe it.
Yeah.
That in fact, I mentioned 4 out of those 5. Let me go over them again. Getting out of debt, arriving at your destination, getting out of prison, getting free from an illness. And the fifth one ties those things together in the sense of uh, having no more job to do. You get fired. Most people, when they get fired, they really do go into a bad state. Oh, what's to become of me? Oh, I'll never get a job again. I got fired. Oh, poor me, right? But a better way of thinking about it is, wow, I didn't like that job anyway. What a relief it is.
Yeah.
But often we have those jobs because we have obligations to pay. Right? And so you can see these things all tied up together, debt and working and doing stuff we don't want to do, being out on a journey, never getting home, almost locked up in prison, and feeling the burden of the world on it in the form of sickness. And all of this comes from having unwholesome thoughts.
Mm.
That in fact, the word hindrance has a quality to it in the sense of it hinders us from being happy. It hinders us from being in a good state right now. And so if we can
Yes.
remember, hey, I'm not in debt. Hey, I'm at home. Hey, I'm not on a journey. Even though I'm traveling, I don't have to have that sense of I'm on a hard trip. Like riding in a taxi cab. How hard is that?
Very easy.
But how many people feel that way when they're in a taxi? Very
Not a
few.
lot.
Mm.
Yeah, like the feeling of I have to do something while I'm doing
I have to
this.
do something. I can't just rest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hmm. Okay. And and so this feeling of like owing people is just telling yourself like it's just because you don't enjoy doing it for them, so it feels
Yeah,
like you owe them.
it feels like we owe them because we're already been in the habit of doing what we're told to do and not getting a good reward out of it.
Yeah.
Calling Granny on her birthday is a drudgery because we're in the habit of thinking that it's a drudgery, when in fact it could be a high point of our own day. Give her
Yeah.
some
True.
joy and she'll give it back. But if you
Yeah.
call her out of a sense of obligation, then she's going to buy into it that way. Yeah, you should have called earlier.
True. That is
And so
actually
we
true.
and so we teach our kids that sense of obligation. We teach our kids that sense of um, you got to work to eat. You got to do it whether you like it or not. Like kids, if a kid, remember for yourself, if you had a choice about going to school, would you have gone to school, or did you do it because you were told to go to school? And
Absolutely.
you
Nobody wants to go to school.
nobody why is that? Which means that nobody wants to learn anything. But a few people occasionally really enjoy learning.
Hmm.
Have some fun at it.
Just basically deliberately make everything fun.
Yeah,
Um,
just deliberately make everything fun. And we start by making nothing fun.
yeah.
We stop doing
Yeah. Yeah.
anything and just sit there doing nothing at all, and let's make that fun.
Yeah.
If you can't make nothing at all fun, then where is ever you going to find fun?
Okay.
Being away from other people, being all alone, nobody's fussing at you, nobody's expecting anything to you, and you can just sit down and relax. Wow, take a load off.
Yeah. True.
And so we need to practice that when we've got very little going for us. It's very much like going to a gym. Most of the people who go to the gym They don't want to start with the 1 kilogram dumbbells and do the reps over and over and over again to build those muscles. They want to go to the big dumbbells and see how strong I am. Right? We see the guys picking up those big, heavy dumbbells, and we want to pick them up too. But that's not the way you have to start. A good trainer will say, no, you don't go there. You sit here and you pick up these 1 pound, 1 kilogram dumbbells, and you start doing reps. Okay, well, that's how we practice Anapanasati. We give ourselves very light weights, nothing at all, and we repeat it over and over and over again. Hey, I like this. Hey, this is good. Hey, I can do this. Hey, I'm the boss here. I'm the boss of nothing at all, and if I learn to be the boss of nothing at all, then when something happens, I can be the boss of something.
Okay. Sounds good.
Well, it sounds too easy, doesn't it, almost?
It is, but that's actually another question that I had. Like, for example, the dependent origination sounds like such a complicated word, but when we talked about it in the Sangha, it was very easy. Why such a complicated word for something so easy?
Mm-hmm. One little step at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah. That when we receive input, we mix it with all our garbage, and we wind up with garbage instead of the actual reality. But if we keep paying attention to reality, we start dealing with real. And the reality is that we live in a paradise. Why do we keep creating a hell out of it? By not liking.
Yeah, it's a strange paradise, but a nice one.
Yeah, it's good enough.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah, life is good enough. Then, in fact, everybody lusts for life. Nobody wants to die. The big general in the army says, okay, we've got a suicide mission. I'm looking for volunteers. And everybody takes a step backwards.
Yeah, it's too good to. The alternative is probably a whole lot more. I don't know.
Well, being dead's a whole lot easier than being alive.
Mm-hmm.
Being alive is tough when we're trained the wrong way. That's why we have to train ourselves. To being alive is marvelous. It's really great.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad I've got another breath to take.
I am actually. If you think about it that way. Yeah. I have another question about practice. When sometimes I'm practicing gladdening the mind, and like, is there a moment where you kind of like stop gladdening it, and you just sit there? Because I feel like, okay, I'm building up this feeling of like, okay, oh, I'm feeling so good. Oh, this is so nice. Oh, this is amazing. Oh, this is so great. And I do notice that when I'm just laying there, I get like this big smile on my face because I'm enjoying the moment. But
right,
is
because
there
you
a
did
moment where
gladden the mind. Yes, that's the whole point is that you do arrive, but you don't stay there.
But is there a moment where you're like, okay, now it's enough. Now I'm not gonna make myself even more happy, where I'm just like, oh, I'm so enthusiastic to do, like, to just
exactly.
just super happy being here.
It's a really middle path.
Okay.
That we have been trained in our society to move from one extreme to the other, that it's not good to be just in the middle. An example, in America, you've either got to be a Democrat or a Republican. If you're an independent or you're in between or you don't give a flying rip about politics, you're a pariah. But you got to make a choice here. You can't sit on the fence. There's an old joke, by the way, and that is that during the Civil War in the United States, the blue against the gray. And so the guy says, well, I'm going to try it both ways. And he put on gray pants and a blue uniform coat. And guess what? He became a target from both sides.
Yeah.
So the Northerners shot his butt off, and the Rebs shot him in the chest. So that's the way that we look at things. Also, if you're at an extreme and you look at the other extreme and you see somebody in the middle, they actually do look like they're on the other side. There are the people in the middle appear from a distance to be at that further distance.
Yeah.
And so if you're at the right and looking left, anything in the middle looks pretty left to you. And if you're on the left and you look right, anything in the middle looks pretty right to you. Okay, so this middle ground is not well understood. But what we want to do is practice it in the sense of good enough. It doesn't have to be over the moon. Just good enough. Let's come out of our dukkha. Now, what happens with that is it begins to build. Yeah, just be glad to be here. And then it dawns on us that, hey, we can feel that way all the time. Anytime I remember it, I can feel that way. This is when we really understand it in the sense of this is the path, what is the path and what is not the path. Because look how many people meditate trying to find out what the path is and they don't feel any better.
So it's like a light smile. Like a light smile at everything.
Everything is in the middle. Everything is okay. You don't have to go to any extreme.
And then while I'm doing that, well, sometimes I would go to the extreme, but sometimes I would just be like, okay, I'm just glad to be here. I have nothing to do. I can just lay here. And then, as you said, I would congratulate myself, like, hey, congratulations, Rick. You've done it. You're out of dukkha. You're just happy. But at some point in time, it's like I don't know what happens, but at some point in time, I might just like find some type of path to go down, and like then I'm like, oh no, huh? Why am I thinking about all this stuff and that's like I have no point, like I have no business thinking about. That just keeps happening. Like, is it just the practice of okay, recognizing, hey, I'm distracted. Okay, now I'm not distracted anymore. Now I'm happy again.
Yeah, coming out of that being distracted by something. Maybe the example would fit in the sense because you mentioned about being in a taxi. How many people are in that taxi instead of just relaxing? They want the driver to hurry up. They're already in a hurry, and they're not going to get in there any faster by feeling like they're in a hurry. And yet we get into that sense of hurry.
Yes.
It's not everybody has that, but a lot of people do. In fact, in TA, they talk about 5 different drivers, and hurry up is one of them. I certainly had that one. That was my primary life's driver. I was in a hurry for everything. And so when I'd be in a taxi cab, it's like, hey, man, I can drive this thing faster than you do. I've actually ridden in a car with people thinking, you ought to hurry up. You're only doing 10 miles an hour over the speed limit. Let's go someplace. Being in a hurry. And whenever we get there, I'm still in a hurry. The hurry doesn't ever stop. It's a feeling, it's a driver that we get into the habit of out of a sense of fear that I got to get her done. All right. But other people have the idea of they have to be pleasing to other people. Oh, if I don't please you, everything's going to fall apart. And often we do that when we're lying. If we're lying to somebody to try to please them, there'll be certain facial gestures that we have. Let me show you some. Have you ever seen people do that? They're trying to get you to believe their lie.
Moving forward to you? Like this?
Yeah, looking for and doing this and raising the eyebrows. I can't raise mine. I got out of the habit of having, yeah, right. You can wrinkle your brow. I can't wrinkle mine.
Okay.
Been relaxed too long. Also, you got to get it right. You got to be perfect. Another driver, which is actually, we don't see it quite so often with the young men, but in the days of the 1950s and 60s, it was called be strong. You got to be tough. You got to be there. You got to be, military. We've got an army here, that kind of mentality. Bullies get into that be tough or be strong mentality. All right. And guess what? All of those things we can relax. Be strong, be perfect, please me, try hard. That's the worst one. And hurry up. The try hard is that you expect to lose. You can't do it. But you got to at least appear that you can do it.
Yeah.
You got to look busy when the boss comes by.
Yeah. True. I can recognize that.
Mm-hmm. Got to try hard.
I've done my best. Okay, I've done my best.
I've done my best. That's exactly it. That's the try hard driver.
Yeah. Interesting. So it would just be. So being distracted, is that dukkha? No, right?
Well, is cruising for a bruising. All right. Being distracted while we're driving an automobile is the number one reason for automobile accidents. It's because we're not watching where we're going. We trip over furniture because we're not watching where we're going. That in fact, this is something that's quite amusing to me, because so much of meditation practices, you've heard it talked about before, about you got to concentrate. You got to work hard. You got to concentrate. You got to focus. Guess what? Life is not like that. Life can come at you from any direction. The better thing to do is to be alert, to be awake. When you're driving a car, you can't drive the car like this. You're not watching what's going on around you. When you're driving a car, you can be completely relaxed, but you're really watching what's going on.
Yeah. So I had this image of meditation, that meditation should be like, okay, my mind is empty. There's nothing.
And then you fuss at yourself when you find it's not empty, rather than enjoying. Aha! I see that too. I see that. I see what's going on. And so you begin to enjoy. Yeah, to observe and to enjoy observing, rather than because that's the right effort, to enjoy the observing. But most people, they observe and then they don't like what they see. And so they keep looking and keep looking, and they don't like it, but they keep looking at it, and pretty soon they get really miserable because they're looking at something they don't like. But the real point is to observe and take that right effort to say, it's okay. Yeah, I see that. Then we can very easily do what Goenka talks about, is never mind, start again. I can see that the mind has wandered away, but most people, when they first start, when they recognize the mind is wandering away, they say, oh, you're not supposed to wander away. You're supposed to do what you were told to do. You got to have an empty mind. And so we don't like it when we don't make the goals. The question is not whether you're making the right goal or not. The question is, are you enjoying playing the game?
That's a good question. I like games.
Yeah. So life is a game. Enjoy the game.
True, I do.
You're the only one who's keeping score anyway. Everybody else is keeping their own score.
Yeah, that's fair. That's very fair. I do feel like I look at life like that a little bit. Like everything I do is kind of like this game, because it feels like in the grand scheme of things, the only thing that really matters is this moment anyways.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So
That's
everything
the
you
only thing
do,
that matters, this breath. I
yeah,
have heard, by the way, in fact, on YouTube, it looks like that they're dragging up some really, really old clips, maybe 15, 20 years old, of Christopher Hitchens having conversations with Christians. And the
okay.
Christians come by with the point of God gives meaning to life, that
Mm.
God creates morality, that if you didn't have a God and you didn't have hell, you would be a bad person, right? And Hitchens comes back with that, oh no, almost all of the stuff is done that's really bad is done in the name of God. Jihad. Okay? Let's have some rules about abortion, you know. God made some rules about abortion, and we're going to make sure those women suffer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or crusades.
Right. So that's where this whole idea of meaning comes from. It comes from the religious people who think that God gives meaning to life. And if there is no God, there is no meaning. But the right answer to that is, yeah, yippee, there is no meaning. That means I am free from having to take care of all of the meaning. Things don't mean anything, and so I'm free.
Yeah. I could just enjoy.
Yeah, I can just enjoy it. I don't have to keep score and make score and win points and suck up to God or any of that kind of stuff. I'm free. Life
But
has no meaning. It just is. Can you enjoy it? If there is any meaning in life, it's can you enjoy being alive?
I feel like is it strange that when you say there is no meaning, I also feel a little bit afraid. But is that holding on to familiarity? The wanting of
Yes.
like
Hmm.
there has to be something.
There's got to be some meaning out there, but it's just all of, I mean, it's part of Hitler's Mein Kampf. It's part of the propaganda. They're going to get you to contribute to the church. They're going to get you to go to the job. They're going to get you to conform to their rules. They're going to get you to be a good citizen because there's meaning in life.
To add
Because what
to
would
society.
Right, to add to society, you've got to contribute to society because the society had meaning. No, it doesn't. Don't mean a thing.
Yeah.
It only means something to people who want it to have meaning because they were taught that.
Yeah.
And we were taught that back from our grandparents and our great grandparents and our great great grandparents. It just goes back and back and back, even before the feudal times, of one group of people oppressing another by telling them that they've got to have meaning in their lives and contribute to me.
Yeah.
And when you tell those old bosses, hey man, you don't mean anything to me, I don't have to do it the way you want me to do it, I'm free.
I would bet they won't like that because it threatens their existence.
It threatens them, right? Because if they can't get you to do it for them, who can they get to do it?
Yeah.
What is it? Make them fulfill their greed.
Yeah. So
And when we
if
come out of our greed, then there's no meaning.
yeah.
We're okay. We're happy. Go ahead.
So if there is no meaning to anything basically, do you believe in like karma and the feeling of like, okay, I've done a transgression and this has some type of bad effect on me?
Yeah, because I don't like that I screwed up. And I create a hell for myself to punish myself because I've screwed up.
Yes.
Instead of just say, never mind.
But
Never
but
mind.
I feel like this is such a weird like idea of just if you've done something bad, just forgiving yourself
Yeah, get
without
over it.
any, and just don't do it again because it's unwholesome.
Right. Because look at the state that you got yourself into when you did something that you call bad.
Mm.
And there are certain things called wrongdoing. And what are they? That which causes dukkha is the wrongdoing.
Mm.
So an example of that is farting in public. Why is that? Why is farting in public a wrongdoing? Why is it bad?
I think because other people are
They
experiencing an
don't,
unpleasant smell.
right, they don't like it. So when they fart, they don't like it. Instead
Yeah.
of, wow, I just farted, what a relief. I'm glad it wasn't wet.
I'm gonna start doing that from now on. But isn't you the one who decides if it creates dukkha as well?
Well, yes. And one of the things that we can do is we can observe our own mind, our own feelings, and we can observe the reactions of others.
Mm.
That in fact, if somebody doesn't like it and they start to pretend to choke and go like this and all of that, you can do that too and be happy. Wow, that was a big one, wasn't it? Ha ha! What a stink bomb I let off that time. Got your reaction, didn't I? And cheer them up. Rather than, oh, I didn't do it. He who smelt it dealt it. And then everybody feels bad. Why do people feel bad when somebody farts? Why can't we just howl with laughter?
I don't know. Just because you're taught that way.
They're taught that way, precisely.
Yeah. Just by
Look at it.
inferring it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And look how much dukkha we have because we are taught to be in a state of suffering. We're taught that there's rules against doing that. And if we can observe and know there's certain, for instance, taking things that are not given causes people real dukkha. And so we don't do that kind of stuff.
And it gives other people dukkha or yourself dukkha.
You're right. You give people dukkha and they'll give it back to you. If you give other people dukkha, then we'll feel bad anyway. So we abstain from doing things that harm ourselves and harm other people. This whole teaching is about dukkha and getting out of it. So if you can see it in the distance, sidestep it, avoid it. For instance, anybody who criticizes you is already in dukkha. And if you deny what they're saying, if you deny it, that means that they wounded you, they hit you, and you don't like it. But if you have the attitude, you missed me. I don't know who you're complaining about, but it ain't me. It's your imagination of who I am. You don't know who I am. All you know is what you believe, and that causes you dukkha. But if I buy into it, now both people are in dukkha. But if I can just sidestep it, didn't affect me, then I can, just let it drop, and so can they.
Yeah.
But Reddit is full of people who will criticize people, and then they have to criticize back. They have to defend themselves. There's a good song. I don't know who wrote it or who sang it, but it's a popular song, and it goes like da 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 da. Can't touch me. So begin to live your life as if things just can't touch you.
Yeah.
Another way of talking about it is that revenge is best served cold. Don't try to get revenge when you're hot. Just cool off. And then the second part of that is that the best revenge is living well. The best
Being
revenge
happy.
is, hey, he didn't touch me. Yeah. So what?
Yeah.
He said something. It didn't bother me.
Yeah.
Let him criticize. It's not my problem. But if
They
you
wasted
criticize
their
them
effort.
back, you've got an argument going.
True, true. If you don't put any energy in it, then they've only wasted theirs.
Right. And that's okay with me.
Yeah. Yeah. Very true.
Yeah, it's all right. Let them criticize. Because they didn't criticize me. Because I wasn't
criticize.
there to be criticized. They just criticizing. I don't have to own it.
Yeah, they just criticize the idea that they have of you.
They're just criticizing the idea in their own head.
Yeah.
And when they criticize me, it's because I bought into it. I made myself a target. I stood up to get shot. But if I'm laid back and they shoot something at the arrow at me, it just goes right by.
Yeah.
They miss me. Can't touch me.
Can't touch me. Da-na-na-na.
Yeah,
Can't touch me.
you can't touch
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. I know that song. I think it's MC Hammer, right?
Something like that.
Can't touch this. Yeah, true. Okay.
I'm living
Sounds
well.
good.
They can't touch me. There's no reason to
Yeah.
take revenge. There's no reason to try to get them back. Because they didn't get me at all.
Yeah. You just
There's
have
a
to.
there's a line in the Dhammapada that says that when somebody says something like, he insulted me, he hurt me, he did something to me, then I'm the one who's feeling bad. And so I'll say, he hurt me, he touched me, he dealt me a bad deal. But wise people don't say that. They say, never mind.
It's not worth the effort.
It's not worth the effort, which means that we have to take the right effort to not take that effort.
Yeah.
That's one's right noble effort, is to get out of the way.
Yeah. Sounds good. Sounds pretty easy. And
Easy.
sometimes I have this feeling of like that. Okay, there is something that happened, and I feel like it doesn't even affect me. But then other people are telling you like, oh, but that's bad. Like, oh, you should do something about it. And like, should I now? Or,
The
it's
answer
like,
to that is no. Why do you get touched by that? It didn't bother me.
yeah, true.
Yeah, they'll get
Yeah,
uptight because they get uptight. Even though that it was you that got insulted, they want you to be feeling insulted because they feel insulted for you.
yeah,
They came and stood and got hit by the arrow that was intended for you.
yeah.
And you could do something silly like saying, I'm sure I'm glad that it's you that feels bad. Otherwise, it'd have to be me now, wouldn't it? Thanks for standing, thanks for
Thanks for
taking a
saving
bullet.
me.
Yeah, thanks
Yeah,
for
yeah.
taking a bullet for me. Thanks.
Yeah, that's a nice one.
Okay, well, why don't we finish now? Because you're going to come over
Yeah.
tomorrow and we'll talk some more.
Yeah, what is there a particular time that I should come, or can I just come early morning?
Yeah,
What
come
works
on
well?
over. Yeah, come on over. What when you say early, what kind of time is your boat?
Oh, I haven't even looked at the boats yet, but let me look at the boats
So by the
now.
time that you get here, if you get up and get early on a boat and get over here, by the time the boat arrives, it's not early anymore.
Oh, okay. Um,
As soon as you get
uh,
on the island, you have a cell phone that has internet connection? Okay, so
I
you've
do.
got Skype. Just Skype me when you get
Okay,
on the
I'll just
island.
I'll just Skype you when I'm there, and I'll send Kat a text to maybe go watt hopping if he.
Right. When you get your time schedule on the boat before you leave, tell us what time you're getting here, and we'll be ready for you. Cat can probably come to the pier to get you.
Oh, perfect. Thank you so much. I would really appreciate that. Okay,
All
nice.
right.
Well, look, I'm
Excellent.
really looking forward to see you tomorrow.
Okay. Me too. We'll see you.
Okay, see you, Dhammarato. Thank you so much for the call. Take
All
care.
right. Okay. Bye bye.
Bye bye.